Hey everyone, I'm going to be doing today a video that is maybe long awaited for some of you, and that is the 4,000 round update on this Century Arms VSKA AK-47. For those of you just joining us, this is one of their completely American-made AK-47s, and they did provide me with the ammo to run through this thing, and now we are sitting right at 4,000 rounds, give or take a couple dozen, because there's always other ammo mixing its way in for testing. There's a couple things that I try to do differently with this 1,000 rounds just to keep things interesting for both myself and for the rifle. First of all, I've been predominantly using, and I mean by predominantly I mean probably 90% of the rounds through this 1,000 was with the US Palm new production magazines. So these are the brand new US Palm ones being made now by Century Arms, or at least under the Century Arms umbrella. And then up here at the front, I added one of the Midwest Industries 2-chamber brakes. Previous videos, I was using kind of a variety of mags, Comblock and American-made mags, to try to see how it handled all those different mags, and it got to the point where it's just boringly reliable. And then I was also both using the original slant brake, a flash hider, but then through the last couple thousand, one of the Century Arms muzzle brakes. This 1,000 rounds, like I said, swapped to this Midwest Industries one, and now I also want to do some more strenuous testing on these US Palm mags, and 1,000 rounds is definitely a good way to at least get that process started. So if you want a really in-depth look at what these rifles are or what kind of features they have, definitely go back to my first 1,000 round video. That's going to be more of my in-depth review. This one is really just going to be talking about what I experienced through this last 1,000 rounds. And I guess thankfully or unthankfully, depending on how you view things, there's not really too much to say. It's just been boringly reliable. The magazines have worked very, very well. I believe in this 1,000. I also used a 75 round drum if I can find the footage. Honestly, I've been testing out so many different rifles and especially AKs recently that it's hard for me to keep things straight. But if I can find the footage, I'll roll that in. And I can also say I really do like this muzzle brake from Midwest Industries. Now, maybe it's not super fun for the people standing next to me, but for me as the shooter, there's definitely a noticeable improvement in the way that this rifle feels. Not that the previous AK-74 style brake from Century Arms was bad, but just to be honest, I think this one's a little bit better. I will be doing a review on that AK-74 style brake at some point in the future. I guess look to that video when that comes out. I'm going to go ahead and start rolling in pictures of both the externals and internals of this rifle. And there are a couple little things here and there that I'll get to, but I'm going to try to maybe better this time keep my words in line with what you're seeing in front of the camera. I have a lot of pictures, and I guess that's, again, either a good thing or bad thing, depending on your perspective. The front sight block looks really good. There's really nothing too crazy. Only wear on it is the wear from my front sight adjustment tool, which was sent to me by one of my patrons to adjust the windage on this thing. And I haven't had to touch that in the last couple thousand. It's definitely stayed put, but that's the little marks you see there. The gas block looks totally fine. Again, the 45-degree gas block. Pins don't look like they've even thought about moving in any direction. Handguard is still loose, just like in the first 1,000 rounds. It came out of the box that way. And again, the weird thing there is, as I've mentioned before, we do carry these rifles at the store I work at, and that hasn't been an issue on any other ones, but for whatever reason, this handguard set that I got straight out of the box was a little bit loose. It doesn't seem like it's getting any worse to me, but just to let you know that that's still going on. Rear sight, you know, nothing crazy going on there, doing everything it's supposed to, and all the rivets still look really good. Again, nothing jumping out at me, but if you see anything in the pictures, definitely feel free to say something. One thing I want to mention, and I haven't mentioned up to this point, I don't think in any of my videos, the stock back here is holding up very, very well. It has not even started to come loose at all. Usually within the first 1,000 rounds or so, some of these cheaper wood furniture sets will start to waller out and start to give you a little bit of movement in the stock. That has not been the case here. I haven't even touched these screws after pulling it out of the box, and I haven't had it come loose at all whatsoever. So that's a really good thing and something I think is worth mentioning. As far as the internals, again, there's really nothing jumping out at me. There's really only one thing, and that is on the rear section of the carrier. They're basically where the slot is to ride in the top rail on both sides. It is starting to kind of angle itself down from where it kind of comes to the back of the receiver and then goes back forward, jumping back into that groove. I am seeing a little bit of deformation there, but nothing too crazy. Again, it's the only reason I'm mentioning it is because there's really nothing much else to mention going on here. It's not concerning. It's definitely still working. I'm not seeing anything hanging up, but just something I thought I would point out. And even then, as far as deformation goes, on the tail of the carrier, there's a little bit still of that deformation, but I don't think it's getting any worse. You guys can make that decision for yourself after referencing some of the other videos I've done on this rifle. The locking shoulders look really good on both the right side and left side of the front trunnion. The bearing surfaces on the bolt themselves, where they go into those locking shoulders, look really good. And of course, very importantly, the head spacing is still good. So I'm still using a climber no-go gauge, and this thing still will not close. Hopefully I will be rolling that footage in front of you right now. Again, this thing has just been boringly reliable. The magazines have been boringly reliable. Everything about this 1,000 rounds has just been boringly reliable. Again, a phrase I'm going to be using a lot, I think, especially into the next 1,000 rounds. Again, in the first 1,000, I did have a couple hiccups here and there, but really it's just kind of found its way in and just continued to work. So with that, I do want to mention some things that are going to be different in the next 1,000 rounds, getting this thing to 5,000 rounds. I did talk with my gunsmith, and he is going to be mounting me an optics rail back here. I've been saying from the get-go that this AK-47 is the most accurate one I own. However, I haven't had an opportunity to demonstrate that because I suck with AK irons. However, like I said, I'm going to be having my gunsmith install an optic rail on here, and that should allow me to squeeze a little bit of extra accuracy. Not because it's going to make the gun more accurate, but it'll help me see better and be more precise with my point of aim. So I'm definitely excited to get some of that testing going. And I'm still undecided as to whether I'm going to keep this Midwest Industries brake or go back to that 74 style brake. Maybe I'll split it evenly for the next 1,000. But yeah, again, guys, I know a lot of you have your minds made up about what these VSKAs are and what they do and how good they are. And nothing I'm going to say is going to change that. Hey, more power to you. This is America. But empirical data is an important thing. And mine is far from the only 5,000 round review series out there, and I think the results from both mine and everyone else's testing should speak for itself. But again, people have their minds made up. Again, nothing I'm going to say is going to change that, but whatever. Again, we live in America. You're free to live in your own ignorance as much as you would like. And of course, by me saying that, people think that I think that the VSKA is the greatest AK out there. That is not the case, but for what it is, especially being an American-made AK, it is far more than serviceable, and I would not hesitate to recommend one to somebody. And in fact, I've sold quite a few of them at the store I work at with a very clean conscience. One of the things that Adam with Century Arms said when I was doing my video with him at SHOT Show is that he wants me to be a little bit more vigorous in this last 1,000 rounds, which should be a little bit more fun for me since it gets kind of boring just shooting and shooting and shooting. So I'm probably going to find a way to test out these magazines a little bit more aggressively, and perhaps the rifle itself a little bit more aggressively through this next 1,000 rounds to get this thing to 5,000. If you guys have any recommendations or suggestions, definitely let me know, because that's not something I normally do and I need good ideas. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, definitely throw those in the comment section down below. If you have experience with one of these rifles, please let me know that as well. And please, if you have experience with one of these rifles, please let me know. Don't just parrot what you heard someone say on some forum somewhere about something that you don't actually know anything about. And yet those comments are probably already getting posted as I speak. So anyway, as with every other video on this thing, if you see something, say something from any of those pictures, as Robski always says. But anyway, I guess I've said everything I can about it through 4,000 rounds, still going strong. So as always, I hope you got something out of this video, and I really appreciate you watching.